So, hello. Um, I wanted to share something. I think I've made a decent memory store, and now I wanna prove it. So the memristor is this thing here, this white thing. This is just two paper clips in plaster, but one paper clip is it has this plastic around it, and I only scratched the tip of it to make sure we have the smallest contact area on that one, and we have a bigger paper clip on the other side that's mostly submerged in the plaster. The plaster has been filled with water, which was with an electrolyte that was basically just water I used to create rust. So there's probably rust particles inside that water. It was electrolytic, so that was fine. And here I'm gonna show you. I hope you see this well, because it's just hard to. I don't have a stand, so I'm MacGyvering this here and improvising. So it's set on millivolts. We currently read 0 because nothing's plugged in. I have two buttons. One button is connecting this bit here. I have this wire, which I will connect either to the positive or negative rail, depending on which direction I want to set the memristor. And then I have another button that's connected to, it connects basically this 300 kilo ohm resistor in series with this memristor. It connects it and then it goes to the capacitor. There's a tiny 100 nanofarad capacitor here. You probably can't see it on the camera, it's in between the wires. And here I'm just reading the voltages. So what I wanna show is that this memristive device is going to change the value of the second resistor in a typical voltage divider. So we're gonna get different voltages based on the resistance of this thing here. So I'm gonna now connect it to the positive rail. Oh, and by the way, this is 10 kilo ohm, and this guy is 300 kilo ohms. So now it's connected to the positive rail. It's going through the 10k, and then it goes to ground. It's not gonna show anything. I'm pressing the button, making sure I hold it long enough because it's pretty slow, because it's basically just electrolytic, so it takes a while. Now I have to press both buttons to activate the voltage division bit. Oh, and I have to connect this one to the 300. So now we're gonna read a voltage, which is as you can see, it's going towards 800 millivolts. Okay. It's connected properly, right? Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna connect it to the negative rail, and I'm gonna punch in a negative value. Hold it for long enough. 5 to 10 seconds is usually enough, but yeah. Okay, now we have configured it for, I think it's high resistance or low, now I don't know, but we have to now go read the value before it dissipates, because it's volatile actually. And now you can see we are at 300 millivolts, and I can just hold it for a while. It will drift back to its usual value, but the circuit here has an issue, and the issue is that I'm basically reading it back at 9 volts, which is just a low current. It's just gonna drift back to the off state in this case. So I'm measuring voltages, so the higher the resistance, the higher the voltage on that point that I'm holding. And that's what I wanted to show you. That's basically what what I've been trying to do for the past few months. I've made a bunch of these memristors. That's the little caps. They're the same thing. You have a long, or you have more iron exposed and a little bit of iron exposed. They're the same metal. I have two. I've sealed it off with wax to keep the moisture in. This is how they look like. They're basically just two simple paper clips. One is more exposed, the other one is less exposed. I've also tried mixing in carbon. This is how it turned out. This is also the same thing. It's a memristor, or rather this is more like 90% memristor. All of these are like 90% because it holds charge. It definitely holds charge since it's electrolytic, so there's other stuff happening in there, so it's not 100%, but it acts like one when you use when you just punch current through it. The idea is having the paperclip that's little exposed inside is to have the tip rust faster than the other one. So ideally I would have on this longer one I would have something that doesn't corrode at all, but I don't have that since water just corrodes almost everything. And you don't want different materials either, because you will end up with a voltage being produced from these, and that's not really what we want. I can flip this guy around just to illustrate that it should actually work better, but yeah, this wax. Now I don't remember the direction. Well, never mind. I can read what's the state currently. So I flipped it around, so as you can see we are reading 300 millivolts in this direction, and now I'm going to punch I think a positive. I'm gonna hold this for a bit. I'll see. I didn't mark the ends, so I don't really know which one increases and which one decreases, so I have to experiment here a little bit. Now we're gonna read, and apparently that wasn't it. Okay, so I just put in the same direction, so this should be the low resistance state, I believe, and this here I'm gonna punch in a negative voltage. now we read at 300 kilo ohms positive. We should get a different value, and we do. You see, it was at 64 millivolts, so that was the low resistance. Yeah, low resistance state. It drifts back quite fast because I'm reading it back at 9 volts. So you could say that having 300 millivolts is like its default state when it's self-discharged. It's almost like a capacitor in series with a resistor, but not quite, because you can actually, if you're careful with the resistor. Okay, the idea here is to have another voltage divider that you would use to read it, but I didn't do that because I didn't feel like it was necessary, as this thing is pretty slow to switch back and forth, and it discharges quite fast. But as you can see, it really just went back down to around 100 millivolts, and when I punch in a positive value, whoops, just hold this one, that was the capacitor discharging. And now we read, and we're at 450 millivolts. So you can clearly see that as this is part of a voltage divider, based on its resistance, it's going to give you different voltages at the point. The whole idea is to be able to control another memristor, like this one, to control the current. Because if you can control the voltage at the point with voltage, then you can basically direct the circuit and hopefully end up with some oscillator at the end of it. But yeah, this is what I've been working on for many days, and I finally came up with something that works. So since I've pulled this out, let's see if I can plug this in, just to show the craziness I've been going through, just to make something like a switching device of any sort. I'm gonna plug this one in. Since I'm recording already, this is just extra bits of the video. This is not exactly what I wanted to show, but I have a bunch of these. I have also tried a coherer with iron filings, but that worked very well. It worked very well, except I couldn't turn it off, so it only could turn on. Cable. Sorry for all the bad quality here. I'm kind of just improvising. I don't have a stand. I don't typically record videos like this. So now we have another memristor. This one's, I think, a bit more conductive. Let's see. Let's read what's inside the memristor. This should be like a default value, but this one's higher. So it's 900 and it's climbing. It does tend to stabilize at some point if you read it long enough. But let's just punch in the negative one. So since the positive was quite interesting, 1 volt. It's the same. You probably can't really see this well, but it's the same 10K. It's the same setup as the one previously. It's kind of hard to do this without a stand, so hang on, bear with me here. So many cables, I I don't wanna bump into something and flip everything over. Okay. So it's connected there. So we are now punching in a negative value, negative 9 volts. Charging it or whatever, setting it up. And now we read it back. I mean, you could argue that this is just a bad battery, but the difference in voltages is significant. So now this one is roughly the same as before. So I'm gonna have to try punching in the positive value. I'm gonna actually skip over the 10k resistance just to make this faster. Now we read it back. It's at 1 volt. So this means that it's actually in its high resistance state, I believe, since it's in series with the voltage divider. So now we go for the negative again, just to make sure that I'm not pulling your leg. I'm gonna skip the 10k resistance just to make this faster. Okay, now we read it back from the positive rail. And you can see that briefly it went to 300, but this one's not very good. As you can see, it's just kind of climbing back up to 1 volt. So this one's not great, but not bad either. Probably because the high voltage just kind of ruins it. Anyway, this one was better. And since I have this all set up, I can set this to current, just to cover my bases, just to show that yeah, current really is increasing, decreasing, depending on the direction. So plug this, remove space, and I'm gonna just plug this one in. Wait, I was using this one just to make. I'm gonna make sure I use the same guy, so that if someone wants to make calculations, you can verify that I'm just using plain paper clips and I'm not pulling your leg. You could call this a bad battery, you could call this a leaky capacitor, but it can, I can really use this to control voltage resistances with voltage and current direction. Okay, the wax is falling off, so I'm probably gonna have to still improve on the way that I'm making this thing, just to show that I didn't really change much. This is set to milliamps. Connecting this to ground, so use this button here. Disconnect this, we don't need this. We don't need this. I'm just gonna put the negative lead into the ground of the, these are two 9V batteries, I hope I don't have to explain that. And that's the circuit. We are not using this button or these resistors, we're just going to be sending current directly through the thing and measure it. So taking out the resistors, plugging this one here, and now I punch in the positive voltage. It shouldn't produce anything yet. Right. Oh, right. Badly connected button. Badly connected button. Okay. Okay, so now, as you can see, I push the button and we get the milliamps. Is this correctly connected? Everything's fine. Okay, this is weird. Yeah, if you're an idiot, then okay. Okay. I had this connected in all the wrong ways. So we have can go here. Disconnected there. Okay, so I'll just reconnect this here. Put this here, put this here. Now we should be able to normally measure this. Yeah. Okay. So we clearly have like 1 milliamp and dropping. This is in the microamp range. It goes down to 900 microamps. Oh, it's going in the other direction because it's forming a rust on the other side. So now we punch in a negative voltage. And this one shouldn't be dropping, so let's see. It's dropping, but at some point it should start going up. Hang on. Okay, now it's going up. Okay, so I had it probably badly connected or something because I goofed up. But as you can see, the current is increasing. Now we are at 1.1 millivolts, milliamps, 1.2 milliamps, 1.3 milliamps, and it's going up, 1.4, 1.5, switch it here like this, so you can 1.6, 1.65, clearly the current is increasing, so we're switching it on. Now we put this back into positive, and now we go from 2 milliamps and now we go down, switching it off. You can actually go pretty low with this, below 1 milliamp. It's slowing down, and at some point it will want to go back up, simply because the rust on the other side, on the other paper clip, is dissolving. So you saw that now it jumped a little bit. It's jumping back and forth because since they're asymmetric in terms of the surface area, it kind of just goes back and forth. I go back to negative. This is how I tested them originally. So initially this shouldn't really be happening, but I'm overcharging it a little bit. So it initially starts going down before the rust starts dissolving on the other lead inside the memristor. I mean, I'm not sure I should be calling it a memristor, not to not confuse people, but I don't know what else to call it, since clearly current is increasing and decreasing based on the direction of the voltage that's being applied across it. I'll not try the other one, maybe it's gonna be better. This one's falling apart, so clearly we need to work on that. Wax is not really very stable. For my purposes, this functions like a memristor, although most people would argue that it's just a very bad battery. I don't really care, because it works. Okay, this one's clearly more resistive. Okay, so now positive. That was negative, now positive. Should be going up. Or not. Okay, now it's not working. I guess it's dried out too much. I guess I didn't seal it properly. It's dropping from both directions, so now it's acting more like a capacitor. Now this one's clearly not working. So this one's probably busted at this point. It's probably dry. That's the only disadvantage. You have to keep it wet. There needs to be moisture, otherwise it's just not gonna work. When it's dropping from both sides, that's when I know that this is broken, because it should be going up from one and dropping from the other, not just dropping from either direction. So it's dropping from this direction, and I didn't mark them, so I have no idea which one's the shorter one. But technically speaking, it should work after some time. That's the biggest challenge with this. Well, anyway, maybe this one's gonna increase sluggishly, reluctantly. There it is. Yeah, this is now decreasing the resistance, so maybe if I hold it longer it's gonna speed up eventually, but at least, you know, it demonstrates that yeah, it does work, but it just, this one's kind of broken. At least you've seen the difference between a working one and a broken one, right? This is a broken one. It's dropping here, and it should increase in the other direction sluggishly. After it drops, of course, because it has charge and it first needs to get rid of it. So it's the same thing, just I made two and one clearly decided to go kaput on me. But this is what I want to show. This is what I've been working on. This is basically my version of a memristive device. Let's just call it like that. Memristive. Not quite a memristor, not quite a capacitor, not quite anything, not quite a battery. It's kind of in this weird in between. Demonstrate this one. This one was okay, so maybe this is the, I'm just showing you all the devices here. You can click away. This is just me goofing around some more. They're all sealed in plaster, by the way, plaster of Paris, and sealed off with wax. There's just water inside. So plus this one's still working somewhat. Positive current increases it. See? More current, less resistance as I keep pumping current through it at 9 volts positive. And it will just go like this for a while, because there's a lot of iron oxide, meaning rust, to dissolve, so we get quite a huge range. But it's very sluggish. This the only disadvantage. It's very slow, essentially, doing it like this. Now we put in negative, and here we can see that it first increased. It's still increasing, so maybe I had it plugged in badly, or not. No, now it's decreasing. This one's still working. So as you can see, I am now increasing the resistance, dropping the current, and it's dropping pretty fast. This is the short lead, short paper clip. It's going down and down until it stabilizes at a minimum value before it starts going up, as it dissolves the other side of the rust. Okay, so that's the minus 200 microamps. That's the minimum, ideally. Plug it back in. I've been doing this for the past few days because I'm just excited that this even works. And this one's dropping now too. And now once it's down, it should eventually start going up. And now it's going up. there's a lot of it needs to overcome something, either charge or rust on the other side before it continues working. If you charge it too much from one side, then it has to first overcome that energy before it's kind of like it lags behind the history of itself. And it's 348, 350 microamps. So now it's back to the positive. I've made a couple of these over the past few days just to make sure I can make them somewhat in a solid state. But you can see how slow this is because of the plaster and the fact that the electrolyte is evaporating, probably through something. I suppose wax is not good enough to seal this in, but anyway, it works. Let's call this a memristive device, not quite a memristor. So that's all. I could show you a bunch of them, but these are the ones that I made recently that worked well. You've seen a broken one somewhat, you've seen a functioning one. The broken ones decrease from both directions and they kind of act like capacitors that are connected to a resistor. If it's a functioning memristive device, then it acts like this, where you punch a positive or negative voltage into it, and depending on whether it's positive or negative, it's either going to increase its resistance or decrease its resistance. This is volatile, so it actually discharges because simply it's a electrolytic device, so it discharges. There is energy in it, so that's why I'm not super confident in calling this a memristor, because a memristor typically doesn't hold energy of any sort, typically, but I've heard that the resistive RAM that was made, ReRAM, also exhibited nano battery behavior. So strictly speaking, it doesn't really matter that much. As long as you can control the resistance with voltage, then you have, for practical reasons, you have a memristor. And this is very easy to make, actually. Where's the camera? This is very easy to make. Before I go, I'm just going to illustrate to you what stuff I used. I also used copper. This also works. You have I'll just show this on camera real quick. You have a tissue, and you wrap the tissue with copper wire. I got this from an inductor, and you just lightly touch the thing here. So it's like a point contact diode, except the amount of this smaller one, you can barely see it, depending on how much it touches the surface area on the other one, that's going to determine the range of resistances and the speed and all of that. The disadvantage is that you need to wet the tissue. That's why I've been trying to seal this in plaster and all this stuff, but then it ends up slowing down, increasing the resistance, and it becomes sluggish. And anyway, that's how easy it is. Wrapping copper in a tissue or a paper clip and then touching them. Ideally, I used a paper clip I used a paper clip that's like this. You see, it's covered in plastic. So, but if you look at the end here, the end here isn't. So there's a very, very, very small thing sticking out. The paper clip is sticking out here, so you cannot see this on my shitty camera. Sorry for my language, but you cannot see this on my low quality camera. But yeah, this is basically what I used to make sure that the area is small in comparison to the other one. Like, you would submerge half of this, right? And on the other hand, on the other side, you would have this somewhere inside the plaster. This is how it's set up, and it's inside the plaster, so that this is submerged in the plaster and the electrolyte is conducting between them. This is conducting very, very, very lightly. Ideally you wouldn't rust this bit at all, but I don't know what else to use. Because if you use a different metal, you're gonna get a voltage out of it, which might and might not be something you want. You would get a mini battery out of that. And unfortunately, I don't have access to platinum or silver or gold that I could use for the other electrode. So, paper clips it is. You can also use copper, as I mentioned, same concept. I've tried many things. This thing, I was actually kind of proud of this because it's sealed shut, but as you can see, it wasn't really working all that well, because there's actually carbon inside. There's carbon inside this thing, and it doesn't really help. This one is relatively recent, this bit here, and this one looks actually kind of cute. You know, it just, if I had made the other one longer, then you could just plop this in and play with it. But yeah, same concept. There's plaster inside this one too, sealed off with wax from both sides. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you're gonna try this yourself at some point and realize that water is pretty awesome. Oh, I also have this one, which was basically the same concept, tissue and wrapped inside. I didn't want to use plaster for this one, so you can see the rust is all on the tissue. And now I'm actually going. So thanks for watching, and God bless you all. Have a nice day. Bye bye.